What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Well, yesterday we did have that Xbox Developer Direct that showed a number of different titles from Microsoft that are actually coming out this year. And yes, that did conclude with Indiana Jones, which sparked quite a bit of conversation online around the direction of the title, but we'll go over all of that as well as my thoughts on these different games here today. Also, we are going to be talking about Nintendo's next system and how developers seem to feel about it, and even how many of them are working on games for it right now. And we'll also be going over the Circana sales charts, those NPDs for December, as well as all of 2023, showing a pretty big jump for one particular Switch game, and the fact that Call of Duty was not the best-selling game of last year. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton. And if new here to the SpawnWave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're gonna start today with CitraVR. That's the 3DS emulator in virtual reality, which sounds like a really cool idea. And while it is something that you could stream through Airlink, this is gonna be done natively. We can see this posted up. This over on Upload VR, saying CitraVR delivers native 3DS emulation on Quest, coming soon from Airlink creator Amanda Watson. The idea being the top screen, of course, that would be stereoscopic if you're playing on an actual 3DS, would still retain that same effect if you're using, say, a Quest 2. Now, it will not be something you can pick up from the official store. To my understanding, you would be side-loading it, but this seems like a really cool experience just to see how it exactly works there in VR and natively again through the Quest 2. It's interesting to see that hardware be able to push 3DS emulation. While it's not necessarily 100% across the board, there are games that do work well, so might be something worth firing up the Quest 2 and just trying out to see how exactly that stereoscopic 3DS screen converts over into VR, because it makes sense that it should work pretty well there. Also, for all of you physical game collectors, we did get a release date for Sea of Stars, which is something that I Am 8-Bit is doing not only a standard edition for, but also a special edition release. We can see the card here with both versions of the game, and this is releasing, of course, PS5, PS4, Xbox, and Switch on May 10th. Savage Studio is collaborating with I Am 8-Bit, and you can see the other version of the game there. It's an exclusive edition. That's coming out Q2 2024. Okay, so the standard edition, May 10th, the exclusive edition, Q2 2020. So it's probably gonna be pretty close to each other either way. They just maybe don't have an exact date that they've honed in on for that exclusive edition, but that exclusive edition will have a retro-inspired game manual, thank you, collectible slipcase, collectible poster that'll feature original artwork, and an oversized game map. You'll also have a digital download for the game's soundtrack and 4 sticker sheets. So really cool stuff there. Definitely worth checking out if you want to collect the game and, of course, add it to your library of titles on your shelf. But I know this is probably something that many people already bought digitally, so it's kind of double dipping. I guess in that case, you can buy it for a different platform so you have it there, or just pick it up on the same platform and leave it sealed in your collection. But definitely look towards this one. May 10th, they should have pre-orders going live on their website. Oh, and for all of you wrestling fans out there, it looks like we will be getting more information around WWE 2K24. This was posted up over on X. It was a response to 2K24 just updating their profile picture with the logo. And then we have 2K coming in with January 22nd, 2024. I assume they'll show the cover for it, so we'll see, I guess, the wrestler that they put on the front. Maybe they'll do a full-on trailer showing some in-game shots. And this makes sense. They're coming up to the Royal Rumble, which is probably a spot that they want to do marketing for this game, considering it's probably coming out in March or April, so we're only a couple of months away from it releasing. So it looks like, yes, this week, starting the 22nd, the big marketing blitz and push for the newest wrestling game will begin, so look out for that, and I guess we'll see what they have to show us next week leading up to that Royal Rumble. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff, which includes a sponsored spot from Sega and Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. It's out January 26th for PlayStation, Xbox, and PC platforms. Let's take a look.
Welcome to paradise.
Aloha! All right!
I can show you around now. But there's a few things you need to learn before we have a good time. You can have a little fun with some friends. and even pick up a new skill. Whatever you do, be careful. Even paradise can have its secrets.
You trying to tell me there are Yakuza in Hawaii?
Not exactly something you'd find in a guidebook, is it?
Keep your friends close, and your enemies closer.
Name's Dwight.
Nice to meet you.
Take cover!
Certainly a big shout out there to Sega for supporting the show here and working directly with us rather than going through YouTube and then goes to us. In this case, though, I think it'll work to build out Newswave to where we can put it on different platforms easily, whether that's on X or on podcasting platforms or something people have requested. Being able to do these ads and not necessarily just rely on YouTube is important for really that endeavor there, but I'll keep them game related like that, and they'll just kind of pop up from time to time. So thanks for sticking with me there, and thanks to Sega for supporting the show. But we are going to start today with the Xbox Developer Direct. Microsoft did showcase 5 different games here, one being a surprise from a third party that definitely plays into some of the partnerships that Microsoft is trying to strengthen here. But let's start from the top, and that was with Obsidian. And they, of course, showed up with Avowed. And they definitely wanted to hammer home, this is an action RPG. We already knew that, but they wanted to make sure we were aware. They showed off first-person combat, and it really reminded me of Skyrim at times. I don't know if that's just the look of the game or maybe some of the combat or elements to it, but they showed off swords, guns, shields, magic. They were dual-wielding wands at one point, and you can change your loadouts, they said, in real time. So I almost wonder if you can combo together wands with magic to shields to shooting with guns and then uppercutting with a sword or an axe or something. The only critique I have here is when the person was connecting with enemies with these different weapons, didn't feel as impactful as I would like. Like they swing this massive hammer or this massive axe around, and it just didn't feel like it was impacting the enemy as I would like to see it. So that's something they could probably clean up there, make it feel like you're really connecting with this oversized hammer or something. Now, the player's decisions will have consequences throughout the game, so they will have moral gray areas with these dialogue trees. I think visually looks good. Okay, so it's muted, but then it has contrasting, vibrant spots all around the world with some of the showcasing like that they were doing with the different spots. I think it looks pretty cool there. It is launching fall 2024, Xbox and PC, of course, through Game Pass. In fact, every title except for one will be going into Game Pass. Then they move over to Ninja Theory with Hellblade 2. And this is a game we've seen multiple times. Not a surprise that it was here, obviously, as they told us, but we were waiting for that release date, which we did get. May 21st, 2024. That actually falls in line with that previous rumor we had gone over in Newswave, so good to see that there. But they did showcase some of the elements here, which includes their audio technology, which has allowed them to do kind of like the 3D spatialized audio for the entire world, not just the voices. You, of course, will want to play this game when it comes out with headphones specifically, so you hear things all around you, and they're going to do all kinds of whispering and stuff behind you in both ears. It's pretty wild stuff. If you have not played the first one, I recommend checking it out and again, playing it with headphones. The combat looks slow, but it also looks very personal, more brutal as they were discussing than the first one. I'm still unsure of the combat, mostly because they haven't shown it in extended clips. It's been very quick cuts here and there, and that's the only thing I'm really unsure of there. But there is serious attention to detail, whether it's with the character models, the faces that they've been scanning and doing all kinds of stuff as they showed kind of in the lab back at their studios. So I think this is a game that's going to really impress people from a visual and narrative and audio standpoint. Here's the sticking point for people online right now. One, digital only, which was little surprising, $50, similar length to the first one, and people are now guesstimating this could be around 7 to 8 hours, which it's been in development for, we figure about 7 years, right, since the first one released. That is a little surprising to hear. However, I am a big proponent that if a game doesn't need to be 20 hours, then that's fine. Like, I'd rather it be a tight-knit 7 to 8 hour experience rather than them try to pad it out to meet some quota of 15 to 20 hours, and it just becomes a slog and obvious that they're just kind of stringing you along to hit a certain number in the playtime counter underneath of your save game. So I'll reserve judgment until the game comes out, and we'll see exactly what we have there in those 7 to 8 hours for Hellblade 2. Fortunately, though, don't have to wait too long, again, coming out the first half of this year, May 21st. But then we had a bit of a third-party crash for this game, as in a different title showed up that was not advertised, and it was from Square Enix, and that is Visions of Mana. Now, this is the first time the Mana series is releasing on Xbox. They did show, of course, combat with mid-air combos, melee, and magic. I think the visual style looks great, by the way. We've seen this already, right? But every time I see it, like, man, that just, it reminds me a little bit of like Dragon Quest XI, but with slightly more cell shading and just even more vibrant. If that, like, Dragon Quest XI was already very bright and colorful, but this Visions of Mana looks even more over the top in that direction. Summer 2024. This one, by the way, not going to Game Pass. Okay, so that is the one outlier here in really the sea of Game Pass releases, but they did showcase it for Xbox and PC, of course. Then we jump over to Oxide Games, Our History Untold. This is a little out of my wheelhouse. Really, the big strategy RTS game that I was more accustomed to was Age of Empires. None of the recent ones, by the way. The original Age of Empires. Evan, if we could put a screenshot up here from Windows 98 is what I played. Yep, there it is. Okay, that one. So back then, the people were the same size as the houses, and that's how we liked it. But Our History Untold, I feel like if I was really into these strategy games, this would have been awesome. It's from the developers of games like Civilization V. They mentioned a prestige system. It sounded like a player score system, and you can win in different ways, whether it's building up these grand monuments through trade. You can, of course, conquer everyone around you. They also talk about a simultaneous turn system. So rather than just waiting and taking turns and it really being a while between turns, apparently it shortens the amount of time that you spend waiting. So that's a pretty cool innovation there. Fall 2024, this one specifically on PC through Game Pass. Machine Games. Okay, so this was the closeout. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Todd Howard did pitch this to Lucasfilms. He kind of had an introduction in the beginning going over that. So he is heavily involved with this game. It's a cinematic adventure game. It is first person. That seems to be a sticking point for people right now. I feel like a lot of us going into this said, you know what? Don't get too crazy with this. Make it third person, kind of build it up like an Uncharted game, and you'll be okay. This is a bit more of a gamble, I feel like, with an Indiana Jones IP. But they do have cuts to third person through cutscenes and traversal, like when you're swinging around with, yes, your whip. In fact, they go over some of the things you can do with the whip, of course, grabbing people and ripping them down off of ledges, or you can distract people. Maybe you're going more of a stealth route. You do have guns, melee combat that's synced up perfectly with the music in the trailer, where you're punching the person over and over in the face. And there are different ways, as I mentioned, to play through the game, which they showcased, whether you're kind of creeping along the rafters or you're just going in guns blazing. One of the big reveals, though, is that they have the likeness for Harrison Ford, and Troy Baker is doing the voice, and it sounds like he did a very, very, like, an uncannily good job trying to basically be a young Harrison Ford here. Timeline-wise, this does take place between Raiders of the Lost Ark and The Last Crusade. They showcase puzzles, which, I mean, if you're going through some of these archaeological sites, these tombs, if you will, dungeons, yeah, you can kind of figure you'll run into some traps or different things. Sure, I hope that doesn't overtake things too much and that becomes like the primary focus are just these puzzles that might get kind of annoying throughout. Anyway, it's coming out 2024, Xbox and PC once again through Game Pass. So everything showcased here at this time is coming out in 2024. I say at this time because who knows? It's game development it's tough. Things could, of course, fall into next year, but this was a really good way for Microsoft to start out 2024. And barring, again, the controversy around Indiana Jones being first person, which even I was like, ooh, okay, Indiana Jones first person. But then they're showing it, and I'm like, you know what, that makes sense. It looks good, I feel like. And Machine Games knows what they're doing with that first person perspective. So I'm on board, and I'm really excited when this game does come out, which seems like they're lining it up for like maybe like a September, because then you figure they're going to have Call of Duty, so they want to make sure Indiana Jones isn't right up against that release. And I feel like they have some other titles coming as well. So Microsoft very quickly has set up 2024 with a number of releases and immediately are starting to meet that goal of one big release per quarter. So I think for the first Xbox Developer Direct, this was pretty good. I have it right at a B. I think if they had one more solid release date and maybe one other surprise, I might have pushed this thing to an A, because they showed gameplay. That's what everyone always wants. Everything's coming out in a timely manner in less than 12 months, and they had some genuinely exciting stuff there with things like Indiana Jones. So hey, good job, Xbox. Next up, let's talk about Nintendo's next-gen device and some thoughts from game developers as we have GDC, or the Game Developer Conference, coming up in March. How many of them are working on next-gen Switch games right now, and how many would like to work on games for that new platform from Nintendo, which, consider the fact that going from the Wii U to the Switch, there was a lot of concern and doubt. In fact, this was just admitted by even the Pokemon company. They said, hey, I didn't know if it was going to work, so we were kind of timid about it. We weren't sure. We heard from Bandai, same deal. They were like, well, we just missed this one. So now you figure, okay, there's probably going to be a bit more excitement around Nintendo's next system. And in fact, we can see this posted up over on VGC. Now, this was taken from 3,000 game developers across indie and AAA studios, where they were questioned about all kinds of things within their workplace, which did include questions around Nintendo's next system. 8% of developers in that survey say they are working on Nintendo's next console, and 32% said Switch's successor is the platform that most interests them. Okay, so they are still technically behind like the PlayStation 5, for example, which, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, the PS5 is out now, right? So yeah, it makes sense that it would be behind the PS5. But the fact that we don't even know what Nintendo's next system is, and you have over 30% of developers like, yeah, that's the one I want. It's like, you don't really know what it is, but you know there's going to be a lot of interest and probably a lot of money to make there. 8% though working on it, that sounds low, but I feel like there's also many developers who are probably like, well, I'm not going to do, Nintendo has these crazy NDAs. I'm not saying anything. I'm not, wink, wink, not working on that next system. But I feel like GDC is a place where there's going to be a lot of discussion around Nintendo's next device, so I'm sure Nintendo has that in mind as well. Again, that is happening in March, and I do wonder if Nintendo is planning something around that time anyway, just to give us an idea, a vision of what they have for the next system, kind of like what happened with the original Switch, where, okay, well, here's a trailer just showing the concept, and we'll see in a couple months for a formal, like, big blowout of information with a presentation. Could see that, I think, in March, that being the quick teaser, just trailer going over what exactly we have to look forward to here, so stay tuned. And in our last bit of news, let's go over the Circana results for December and then all of 2023. These would be video game sales in the US for the entire year, and we actually have a different game at the top other than Call of Duty, which is a rarity. But let's start over here. We can see this posted up. This is over in Stallbase Forum, of course, referencing Matt Piscatella, who went over all this as well on an X thread, or a Twitter thread. But we can see the chart here. This is for the software charts, December 2023, the top 20. Call of Duty was the top game, but look at number 2, Mario Brothers Wonder. Those are just physical copies, by the way, because Nintendo does not share digital sales, but that was enough to propel it up to number 2 for sales. That's pretty impressive for Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Then we have Madden 24, Hogwarts Legacy, Marvel Spider-Man 2, Avatar, Frontiers of Pandora there at 6, EA Sports FC 24, Mortal Kombat 1, NBA 2K24, same deal there. I believe they don't count digital sales from platform. And then Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which, yeah, why not? Mario Kart 8. Anyway, 2023, year-to-date ending, Hogwarts Legacy was indeed the number 1 best-selling game for the entire year in the US, dethroning Call of Duty, that is very comfortable at that top spot, which shows that, yeah, Harry Potter is still incredibly popular. Madden NFL 24 was at the 3rd spot, Marvel Spider-Man 2 at 4, and then Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. We'll just go over the top 5. That, of course, just physical copies, which, I mean, looking at Hogwarts Legacy, go figure, WB is going to do a sequel to this. Why wouldn't they? There was a lot of fighting online around this game, but I mean, to me, it still just shows how much of a bubble that Twitter, or X now, really exists in, because the mass market clearly voted and said that Hogwarts Legacy was worth picking up, whether it's because the game itself is good enough in their eyes, or just the Harry Potter IP is incredibly strong. But yeah, Harry Potter fans, I feel like you're gonna be seeing many more games coming up in that franchise. And hey, look, at least Call of Duty wasn't #1 again. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're taking a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, give the Xbox Developer Direct a grade. 38% say C, 29% say B, 12% said A, 13% said, I'm not really sure to tell people if they think that's an F presentation, but really if you look at it, okay, so 41% of people gave it a B or above. You know, that's actually not too bad. I mean, really looking at it, I feel like Indiana Jones is the most interesting to many, many people out there. I know the first-person stuff isn't exactly exciting for everyone, but I am genuinely interested in that title now after seeing it with Machine Games at the helm, and just curious how all of that turns out. But I don't know, it seemed like a pretty good presentation for Microsoft, especially if all these games do indeed make it in 2024. Seems like a pretty good start to the year for him. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from JC Denton, who says, would be nice to get an Ace Combat 8 for next gen. Well, I have good news for you. Ace Combat 7, as was shared on X last year, November, has crossed 5 million copies sold. That more than doubles I think the last best-selling one, which was Ace Combat 4 at just under 2.5 million. And then it comes out on the Switch, Ace Combat 7, another 500,000, maybe 1 million copies there. This could be a 6 million unit seller. So Ace Combat rolling in the right direction. Armored Core going in the right direction. All this under, of course, with Bandai. So things looking good for two franchises that were definitely considered more niche overall. Not so much now. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. There's the Xbox Developer Direct. What'd you think about the games that were shown there? Or GDC, with some of the developers mentioning that they are either working on the next Switch or they would really like to. Seems a bit different than what we were used to before, coming from the Wii U. Thanks, guys, for watching. Have a great weekend. I'll see you back here Monday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time for Newswave.